here we go. And let's share the screen. So I think most of you already know these things that I'm going to tell you, because I've seen many the skills of many of you in a drawing. So for you, this is just a reminder. But I find that also to be pretty good at times. So I go myself to watch drawing lessons and lessons on shapes on YouTube, and read books about it still. Right. So let's see. So I was talking about the basic geometric shapes that can help you with drawing. Let's see what kind of a brush I've got. I've got the, well, I like the Kyle charcoal pencil. Let's take that one. Maybe a little bit bigger. And let's create a new layer for this. Try it out. Yes. So I was talking about the basic geometric shapes that can help you, and I'm deliberately drawing them by hand now and not by any sort of other means. So we have the triangle, which doesn't have to be even sided, and it can be in any formation. And then we have the circle. Look at me, Mom, I'm drawing a circle. Okay, so yes, I can draw a very clean circle, but that was not my intention. Oh, that's what she said. After the circle didn't go as she wanted it to be. And now for some reason my Wacom tablet went on touch. Okay, now I can draw again. So it doesn't like me touching it with my hand. Okay, then we have the rectangle. And as I've drawn these, I have to say right away that it's maybe better to think of these shapes as 3D than 2D when you're doing cartooning. So think of them in perspective. So also that when you start drawing, think about drawing in masses and weights, so that they would have weights on them. And by the way, one thing that is really not easy is to talk and to draw at the same time, because they are just two skills are coming from two different brain locations. So I've read somewhere. And then we have the circle, which should be more sort of as a ball. Oh, such a nice hatching. Or maybe not. one thing that you might also want to try out in your when you practice your drawing is different ways of hatching. So this thing here is called hatching, and most of you probably know that there are many ways of hatching. One would be the classic cross hatching, which goes like this, or you can still have more hatchings over it. This way you don't have, you get a darker shade the more hatching you do, the more cross hatchings. And then there's some like this stippling kind of hatching that you can use, or you can go and follow the shape of your object in your hatchings. And with the triangle, we would have a pyramid of sorts, or a tetrahedron, I think. Okay, and of course you can combine the shapes, but I'll write down a couple of tips that came into my mind with using these basic geometric shapes and with cartooning in general. So, tips. So one would be to simplify everything and look for the simplified shapes, or look for the big shapes. So I think that could be the next thing. Oh my. Understand the big shape. Okay, what else? Find contrast in shapes. That's definitely one. And not just in shapes, also in colors and other things that are visual. Then, well, dynamic forms, definitely. Okay, and my tablet wants me to touch it again. I have to put away this setting at some point. So dynamic forms. Or dynamic shapes, but okay. Well, I already said think 3D, so let's put it here too. Think 3D. So also learn to draw and think in perspective. That's one of the things that I always have to. Okay, was there a question, by the way? Okay, weight and mass. That's definitely connected with the thinking in 3D. And last, but definitely not least, sorry, there's a coffee machine in my background. So exaggerating things. So I'm sure there are more tips than this, but these are the most important ones that came into my mind at this point. So I'll make a new layer and let's put a little bit more stuff here. So I talked about combining the shapes. So let's have that one. Combining the shapes. So of course you don't need to stay in those three basic shapes. You could have, let's have, for instance, the square. We could combine that with the circle. Get something like this. Or we could have a square with round edges, or maybe a circle that has squarish shapes within it. Or we could have the circle and the triangle go together, which will give us many kinds of pear shapes. Or drop shapes. Or we could have the triangle together with the square and have something like this. And you could make the decision if your shapes are going to be all roundish or more squarish or rectangular. What kinds of, are you going to have angles or not, and what kinds of angles they would be. So from these shapes, it would be fairly easy to create simple characters. This one, I mean, all of these could be used as the shapes for heads, or you could use these as, well, let's take this as an example, as the body shape. I mean, it's better to start with a big shape with a body than just a head. So let's have the head also follow this pear shape. And remember to think in 3D. So something like this it could be. And as I said before, it's really hard to draw and talk at the same time. Okay, and my tablet doesn't want to, now it takes my, or we could have the squarish or rectangular shape and see what we can get from that, as maybe to have the body like this. Yeah. So from the big shape, it's really easy to get all kinds of simplified characters. And note that I put some details here, but I start with a big shape, not from the details. That's a common error for people who are starting out with drawing, that they start with the details and go then. And then the big shape is blurred in a way. By the way, I'm not happy with these feet. So I'm trying to find like a 3D shape for these feet so that they work. Okay. So another way of combining these shapes is, okay, I'll show that. On another layer, that you start with 3 sections for your character, or you could start it, for instance, like this, and then you divide it in 3 different sorts of 3 different so let's have like this. So as you can see, I have different measurements for dividing these 3 sections for each of these. Let's put this really low. And after that, you choose one of these, also a combination of these basic shapes. And so this would be the head. Here would be the body. And this would be the legs. So for instance, I could go for this one and start making the head as this ellipse shape, and maybe have like a triangular shape here, have to decide if I want to have a neck at all or not. Sometimes often it's more funny if you don't have a neck with your character. Then maybe I'll put these. So here's a combination of round shapes and triangular shapes. And then I start putting in details and thinking where the eyes might be, where the eye line and nose line should be. For him and so on. Also here I could think about this could be maybe a child character or some other character with really short legs. Some touch on, but I want to draw with it. Also, I could think about where the legs could be. Do I want to have a short character with fat legs, for instance? There could be more contrast with that kind of shape, and so on. Okay, so this is one way of building a body from these basic shapes. Then let's go and analyze a couple of well-known cartoons. So because I really like the Peanuts, the Charlie Brown characters, it's a classic, so I'll take that one. So here's Go Comics, where you can find all kinds of classic comics and also new ones. And this is also a place where you can send your own comic strips, and they do take new ones, I think. So there are a couple of Finnish comic artists here as well, like Dark Side of the Horse. Where is it? Yeah, Samson is a Finnish comic artist. Anyway, Peanuts. Let's go way down. So I don't know if you knew, but probably you knew that there are no new Peanuts strips anymore because Charles Schulz, the creator, died. I think it was in '99, and he had made his final strip ready for the event. So if we look at Peanuts on the Wikipedia page, and Charles M. Schulz, yes, he died in 2000, February the 12th, 2000. And he I think he made these Peanuts strips for more than 50 years. And so I think even people who are born after the year 2000, they probably, most of them know the Peanuts characters, if not the original comic strips. There's Snoopy, of course, and there's Charlie Brown, and so on. Okay, and I can see there are no pictures of his characters here on the page. And yes, there was like a 3D animated movie of the Peanuts a couple of years ago, and they had the people there had lots of trouble at first trying to figure out how to do the characters in 3D because they were not logically built so that, for instance, in the side view and in the front view, the ears of the characters were actually at the different angles or at different places, actually. In the 2D animated series that were before that, it was not that much of a problem. Anyway, there is a newer 2D animated series on Apple TV, and it's really, really boring. So the original Peanuts strip was actually not made for children. It was about children, but for adults. And the new series has been made directly for little kids, and the characters are like not too much like the original characters. Let's say it like that, like nicely. They look like them, but they don't act like the original characters at all. So the original comic strip was actually pretty negative in many ways. So there was a lot of sadness coming from the creator's own life and how he saw life in general. Okay, so here's Charlie Brown. This is the strip that they have now published for the Sunday. So here in Go Comics, you can find all the Peanuts strips from the 1950s on. Okay, so Charlie Brown goes to his friend Lucy, who has this psychiatric help booth. And as usual, he's saying that he's never felt more alone all his life, doesn't seem to fit in anywhere. And Lucy talks about decks of cards. Okay, so let's take, what do we have on the next one? There we have Peppermint Patty and Snoopy, who are regular people in the cast. So let's have, I'll make a screenshot out of Peppermint Patty because here we can see her from the front and see her shape pretty well. So, yeah. And then let's go to a random strip and see. Okay, see if we can get a snapshot of Charlie Brown. Okay, this is 1956. Yeah, so you can also see how the characters have changed. Snoopy had a very much longer snout at the beginning of the strip. there we have Lucy. So maybe I'll take a snapshot also from here. And there's Linus, who's Lucy's little brother and Charlie Brown's best friend. And there we have a nice side view of Charlie Brown, so I'll snapshot him as well. Okay, now we have a lot of Linus. And now they have their baseball hats on. Charles Schultz loved sports, and that's why there are a lot of sports-themed cartoons in Peanuts. The kids here are playing baseball, also they are skating and doing all. They are also playing golf. That was one of Schultz's favorite sports. And I read somewhere that he even bought a skate like an ice hockey rink. Okay, there we have a nice front view of Charlie Brown and a good side view of Linus. Okay. And you can see that the visuals are pretty simple, but also you have to think that they were like 6 of these strips every week and then one Sunday strip. So there's not much time to draw any fancy backgrounds if you're making this kind of comic strip. And also the characters have to be as they have to be so that you can draw them pretty fast, and that's why the simplification is so important. Let's see, I'm trying to find a Sunday strip. Or maybe I could also have these 2 characters. Okay, so let's go back to Photoshop and analyze the characters a little bit. There they are. Okay, there we've got Charlie Brown. I'll go to my original file here. And paste it there. Okay, I think I'll make my pen a little bit smaller and go deeper in. And I'm not going to draw on this, but on the side, because that way I've noticed that I learn better when I don't trace the characters, but just analyze them. So let's see, we have what is the big shape for Charlie Brown? We have several shapes here with his body and with his feet. So the body is a kind of triangle from the side, but it's a like he has this little a little bit of stomach here. So this looks a little bit like a skirt, but it's actually shorts. The skirts look different in here. And then we have really short but a bit fat feet section. So remember the three, dividing this in three. So we have the feet, we have the body, and then we have the head. And the feet are fairly large compared with the body. And we have the and so are the hands and arms. They are relatively fat, so that they would fit with a small child. And then we have like a big head and a comparatively thin neck. Charlie Brown has a thicker neck than Linus, by the way. And then there's like a really big roundish head, but it's not fully round. It's a sort of dome shape, and it's actually quite important to get the shape right. You can, yes, you can start with making a big circle, and that's how Charles Schulz made the first Charlie Browns. They were like just a big circle, but it came a little bit more sophisticated with the time. And also it's important where the ear lies, where the and the eyes are always quite small, and also the shape of the nose is not random. Each of them has their own shape. I mean, each of the characters. Okay, let's go to a different character. Yeah, maybe Peppermint Patsy, and yeah, I think it was Patsy. What was it, Patsy or Patty? I always. Well, I've read these strips as a child, and then I, of course, read them in Finnish. So, okay, now we have, let's call her Patty, right, for now. So let's see, what kind of shape does Peppermint Patty have? So again, there's the big roundish head. And a fairly small neck. And she's holding her hands now on her sides, but the body shape is something like this, that we have like a sort of triangle, gently sloping triangle. And she's also wearing shorts. Right? And again, fairly thick arms and thick fingers. And there's a kind of triangular shape in her hair, I think, up here at least. And it's funny how he draws the noses really close here, and the mouths are fairly far away from the rest of the head, or the rest of the face, or facial features. And Peppermint Patty is always wearing these sandals. And I think the feet are actually going fatter by the ends. So there's a kind of pyramid shape in them, and fairly big feet. And you can see just about that the other foot is in front of the other to give more of a 3D shape here, although in 2D as a like silhouette, this works pretty well. And by the way, silhouetting should have been there with the tips that I wrote earlier, so that you look how your character looks like in the silhouette. And well, I did write about the big shape. Then we have Snoopy, who has like this clearly a pear shape. So his snout is the most important thing here, and the slope of his head. So we have a pear here. So I'll start with that. And it's also a very dynamic position, like he's sitting, but he's also looking at her. So he's attending. So although he's not saying anything, we can see that he's actively listening to her. And that's, by the way, in the stories, one of the nice things about the relationship of these two characters. Snoopy is always listening and understanding her in his own way. And then there's a small kind of pear shape also, but more rectangular in his body. And of course, he looks a little bit different when he stands, or when he's on his doghouse, which you've probably seen somewhere. Snoopy on his doghouse. It's on. So Charles Schulz didn't have anything against merchandising. So peanuts used to be everywhere on cards and stuff. So Snoopy, you can see clearly that he's not one of the kids, because of his the shape of his head is clearly different. So there's a contrast between him and the others. Okay, which other images do I have here? Let's close this one. Well, there's Pig Pen and then we have Lucy, of course. So I think even without the analyzing it, you can see that she has this triangular shape here, or actually several triangular shapes together with her rectangular feet and arms, and again her head shape, although it's largely circular, it is quite original to her, and also her hair makes her stand out right away. So this would also, Lucy's shape would also work well without any, as a silhouette. You could right away say that, okay, this is Lucy and no one else of the gang. So if I blot her out and have only the silhouette, you can already see that it's Lucy. Without any of the details. And actually Charles Schulz sometimes did use these silhouettes when they were in when there was night or something else, or other poor light conditions. Okay, and of the like great 20th century cartoonists, Carl Barks did the same for his Donald Duck characters. Okay, so I think you understand that now. Let's go and have a couple of more examples. Let's see some a little bit newer ones. Let's have cul-de-sac. This is from the 2000s by Richard Thompson. Sadly, this cartoonist died a couple of years ago when he was, I think, in his 50s or so. He got, I don't remember what kind of sickness he got, but it was really sad because first he couldn't. It started with not being able to use his hands at all. He still tried to draw until the very end. Okay, so this is also a comic about children. And what you can see here is that the characters also have very distinct geometric shapes, like Peter Orderloop is one of the main characters. So it's in the family. So he has a distinctly pear-shaped head, and then this long, thin body. He is one of his friends, Ernesto. Also, his head shape and body shape are very clear, and also they are easy to draw. And also they are dynamic. So you can draw them from many angles, and you can draw them for in doing many kinds of things. So that's what you have to also think about when you're creating a simplified character, that, for instance, their arms are long enough that they can grab things. That was, I think, a problem with the Moomin characters originally when they tried to animate them. Their arms were so short that it was hard for the animators to make them grab stuff. Okay, here you can see, by the way, how Petey is looking from the front. He has also these protruding ears. And Ernesto has, again, a different basic shape for his ears. And as Charles Schulz used these very small eyes, well, in cul-de-sac, the eyeballs are pretty big, but the eyes themselves are small. And there's, I think the shapes are also less rounded in general than with Schulz. Here we can see the smaller kids. Alice here is the sister of Petey, and she's one of the main characters. And these are the other kids in her preschool group. So again, if you look at each of their head and body shapes, they are very distinct. This character is has a sort of, well, bucket shape. He's called, well, Alice calls him the bucket head. So, so here we have a head shape that is largely triangular, which is interesting. You usually see this character only from the side like this. And it's also interesting that not all of the characters have these big round eyeballs. So Alice has small eyes. And the buckethead also has small eyes. And then we have the adult characters. Schulz rarely drew adult characters, but cul-de-sac has them. Also, the family parents are quite important in this. So this is the preschool teacher. Also, you can right away see what shape she is and what shapes she's made of. Dill is, by the way, in love with Alice, but he's kind of a weird character. They are all weird, but that's part of the charm here. Also, all of the Peanuts characters are weird in a different kind of way. So, okay, here's the mom. And they get into these absurd situations. Well, the Peanuts characters also got usually in quite absurd situations. But their basic personalities always stayed largely the same. Although with Peanuts, the characters did get a little bit older, like in the time span of 50 years. Charlie Brown got maybe 5 years older, so he went from being 5 years old into being like a neurotic 10 or 11-year-old. Okay, so let's take another comic. So this is fairly new as a comic strip, as comic strips go. Wallace the Brave. This has been around, I think, for 10 years or so, or maybe less than 10 years. Let's see, what does it say about it? Okay, here's the cast. Wallace McClellan is the main character. Then there's his little brother, his parents, and his best friends. So there we have Wallace. So this is these are not reruns; these are actual. So there's actually a new strip every day. So as these are little kids, maybe a little bit older than in Peanuts, they go to school. I think they're in 2nd or 3rd grade, and you can see how the teacher is also made of. Well, there's a triangular shape. Then there's her basic head is kind of a rectangular shape, and then there's the hair that stays the same, and her legs go down in a like a combination of rectangles and a little bit of triangular shapes there, which gives the basic impression of a 40-year-old lady. And then there's Wallace himself. Let's take a random strip. There are the parents. And what I like here is that you can see directly how they are related, so that they are relatives. And the silhouettes work. And yes, Wallace does sometimes have clothes on, and sometimes he doesn't. So that's part of his character. Let's see, yesterday's Sunday strip was here. We can see all the friends together. For instance, this guy is called Spud, I think. So you can see how his head is clearly rectangular shape, combined with a little bit of gentle sloping. And it's, well, again, not important, like how long his body and how long his feet are in comparison. And there's Amelia, who has this distinct hair. From any angle that you can see it, it's always the same. Also, Wallace's hair is the same from any angle. That's what you can do with these kinds of cartoon characters. But if you would make this into an animated show, then you'd have to think about how, if you want to make any like 3D shapes. With 2D animation, you can of course well, fake it a bit. And this, well, we can see this character very well here, but she also has always the basic head shape and body shape. And there we have the father looking. So she's the like intellectual. Amelia is the one who's well, basically a sociopath, but in a nice way. Was well, as his name says, he wants to be adventurous, and he doesn't always think about consequences of his actions. And Spud is a character who wants to be safe and who wants to eat cake and eat nice things. But he also has a musical talent, and he also wants to be like a rock musician when he grows up. Okay. So that was enough, I think, of Wallace the Brave. And let's go into your tasks now. Oh, before we go into that, I want to show one more example, not from Go Comics this time. I can't find him here, I think. I could try, but let's see, Mafalda. So this is quite an old example from the 1970s, but the cartoonist Kino, who was, I think, Argentinian. Nope, no Mafalda's here. He lived quite a long life, and Mafalda was only one of his creations. So he did this Mafalda comic strip for maybe 6 or 7 years. There we go. Yeah, his real name was Joaquin Salvador Lavado. Oh, he called himself Kino from Argentina. So I think Mafalda is also made into animation. But yeah, I wanted to show Mafalda because it's also really, the characters are clearly made from these geometric shapes. You can right away see who's who from the silhouette. And you can find them, the strips, some of the strips online. Okay, and he also shows grown-up characters, and there's also a little bit more like backgrounds and places than in, for example, in the Peanuts strips. So you can see what the city looks like, or you can see what the apartment looks like, things like that. So in that sense, it's interesting. And what I also find interesting with Kino is his like one-page cartoons, which are not non-Mafalda. So I should have a page open here for that. Okay, I'm gonna try to find Mafalda comic books here. To maybe the library to buy some of these. So here are some of them. Oh yeah, this one. This goes into our theme today. The family and world made of squares. Then there's one character who doesn't want to make squares. And jokes usually don't get better when they are explained. So let's have some other. So here, this one is pretty good, I think. I hope you can see this. So here's the first one. You might notice that she has a copy of Picasso's Guernica, which is quite a well-known work by Picasso. And if you don't know Guernica, then look it up. Anyway, then this happens. So when she cleans, she really cleans. And there are other. What I like about Kino is that he always starts from the big shape. Like here you can see these men who are looking at the boxing match. You don't need any sort of details. You can right away see what these men, what kind of emotion they are having. So this is about the god of love. So here it was not such a good idea to make the boxers be in love with each other. Of course, at this time when this strip was made in the 1970s or maybe early 80s, this would have been more revolutionary than now to have two men love and kiss each other. So he made hundreds of these because he was well, that's where he got his money from, not just from Mafalda. Okay, here we have a strip about a cartoon character, Uki. And Uki is everywhere. Okay, Uki is everywhere. So here the reason why I wanted to show Kino is because he has many of his strips have a particular insight. In Finnish, I would call it oivallus, but I couldn't find a better word in English than insight for it. But it's not quite the same as oivallus. Maybe you could help me here. So could you find a word that is better than insight for oivallus? So another word might be gag. So a visual gag is what he uses a lot. So for instance, here where the musician is drawing ears and then he's playing to those ears, although he doesn't have any other audience. So that's a bit visual gag, and it's also related to the character in a way. And this with the Uki, the cartoon character. Well, there was also the insight that this character is literally everywhere. Okay. That's interesting too. Anyway, so you can find Kino cartoons in online if you're interested. So my I think my point here with the insight was that to get this, the best cartoonists, they have the way of expressing a particular way of seeing the world without becoming preachy. So that's what all great cartoons and strip comics are about. Right. I haven't seen the chat, so I'll look at here. It's about Moomin Papa attempts to lift weights but cannot lift past his snout. Oh yes, she Tobiasson did use that as a visual gag at some point in the comic. You're completely right. Okay, stop sharing. Do you want me to continue recording as I'm telling the tasks, or should we just go through them? I think I'll stop recording now, and the tasks will be there written.